Good afternoon. We have a very special guest today. It's Mr. Russ Colliau. Russ and I have known each other a long time, and he's here to teach us Real Estate 101 so that everybody, when they do their orientation as they work here and you're talking to all these different players in the real estate transaction, you understand who they are, what they want to hear, how the transaction is going for them, how they want their clients to be treated, those sorts of things. Also, you'll hear maybe a little bit about why they choose our inspectors, our home warranties, and this training's for everybody in the office at all of our locations, sales reps in the field. It is going to be a little bit basic on the real estate side, so for those of you that have been around a while, it'll be a review for some of you. But I think you'll learn something today. The cool thing about Russ is that he has been in the home inspection space, he's been in the real estate space, he's been in the real estate training space, and how many in this room are in the inspection call center? By show of hands. All right, so the first time I ever brought somebody in from outside to do consultation on the scripts that you use, some of them still today, it was Russ in that building before we ever had this building. So we're happy to have him back, Mr. Russ Colliau. Make him feel at home, like all 500 of you.
He also missed one piece. I have been in the inspector vendor space as well. So selling to inspectors and communicating with them, as well as communicating with agents from all the different zones. So he gave me some things that he wanted to make sure you guys got. And of course, we'll also have a conversation because I am not up here just to lecture for an hour. And so first and foremost, I want you guys to all understand who all the participants are in a real estate transaction. How many here have bought or sold a house before? Raise your hands. Okay, so we have a chunk of the room, and yet there's still a number of folks who haven't. So first of all, in every real estate transaction, there's going to be a buyer and a seller, right? So that's where that transaction will occur between those two, and there'll be a third party called a title company, sometimes an attorney, depending on what part of the country you're in, that manages all that flow of that conversation on the real estate transaction. All the money, all the documents, making sure everything, they're a neutral third party that facilitates the transaction. Let's go down the buyer side because that's mostly where you guys will be interacting. So on the buyer side, they have a buyer's real estate agent, we sometimes refer to just as a buyer's agent, that is their representation. The buyer's agent and the seller's agent have a fiduciary responsibility to their client. They, in essence, are representing them, and everything between those individuals is confidential. They're not allowed to share specific information with you or anyone else about what's going on with them. And of course, the seller has their agent. So now we have 4 people in the transaction. On the buyer's side, as they go out and find a house and decide to make an offer and write an offer and everybody agrees to the offer, they then turn around and start hiring at least one and maybe multiple people to provide insights about the property. So that very first one that they're looking to hire usually is a home inspector to make sure everything with the house is good. Now, where do they find their home inspector? The agent. It's almost always a direct referral from the agent partner saying, all right, they may say, here's a list of home inspectors, yet they'll always tell people, you know what, this is the one that I've got a great relationship and is taking great care of my clients. And it's usually their inspection partner who's going out and do the home inspection. Now, they also may have a radon test company. They also may have a pest inspection company. Depending on what the inspector finds, they may bring in other specialists to verify what's going on, like a heating and air contractor, a plumbing contractor. So there can be a lot of people involved in that inspection window. Once that inspection's done, they're then moving forward, and in that process, usually before inspection and close, they're having a conversation about a home warranty to give them protection and who that home warranty company should be. So those are our places. On the seller side, just a quick snippet on that. The seller may, in very, very rare circumstances, have an inspection done. It is growing across the country. It's extremely rare. And the seller's agent may, if they're smart, get a seller's home warranty in place right up front that takes care of it. Okay, so those are the people. Now let's talk about the timeline. That's why I got this piece of paper up here. So you can see the entire process from beginning to end, and I'm going to do it from the house's perspective. So in the house, there is a seller that lives there, and the seller decides we're going to put our house on the market. And they interview real estate agents, or they have someone they know, and they list the house. So the first thing that occurs in the home transaction process, ultimately that starts the process, is a listing. And so I, as an agent, will go out, meet with that individual. I will review the property. I might work up what the fee should be for the sale. We might negotiate the commission, and we will come to terms and an agreement on a listing and list the house. Okay? I'm going to give you guys today the traditional process. Do you think I maybe do things a little differently? Okay? And so there are other pieces you'll discover along the way. Let's go through the traditional process, however. The listing agent may bring in a stager to prepare the house for sale. And then they will put the house on the market, which is when it shows up in the MLS and on all your websites like Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and just because I'm a plug kind of guy, the #1 research tool for real estate that came out yesterday is the new Keller Williams app. It does more than any of those websites. It was just released yesterday. You can download it from the App Store, and if you have a Keller Williams agent who's a partner, you can get it from them. Okay? All that, though, we now have the house on the market. There are buyers agents bringing their buyers through and showing that property to a bunch of different people, and finally there's a buyer that says, hey, we want to write an offer. An offer is delivered, we negotiate, we get an accepted offer, and we are now considered in escrow because we have an approved agreement between both buyer and seller. In most states, and it's different in every state, it is considered an as-is contract. It's right in the contract. This is an as-is sale. I'm selling this house as is. Yet under this format has the seller actually defined what condition the house is. They've provided a disclosure. There's a disclosure statement they do, and yet there may be some things the seller doesn't know and that the buyer doesn't know. So once that's done, the buyer hires the inspector. Inspector goes through, analyzes the house, provides to the buyer a report. The buyer reviews that report. They might ask their seller, or they may go get bids for the repairs. And all of a sudden, at this point, there winds up being a renegotiation. Either a negotiation for repairs, or a negotiation for a change in the price of the house. And how do you think the seller feels about that? Yeah, they're stressed. They've already literally mentally spent their profit here, and now we have a renegotiation based on the inspector. So what do sellers' agents sometimes think about the inspector at this process? Yeah. Do you guys know the term that sellers' agents use for inspectors that cause contracts to be canceled? What is it?
Deal killer.
Deal killers, right? Now, as a previous inspector, I want to share with you guys something for a moment. That term is absolutely offensive. That is not what they do. They are not deal killers. Those inspectors that actually live in that space of having their ego show up, and instead of educating their client, they scare their client, are not deal killers. They are transaction assassins. Write that down. Because they're letting their ego get in the way. A great inspector at this moment truly knows they're an educator. And they're teaching the buyer about the house and educating them on what's going on with it. There may be some items that need to be addressed, no big deal. There may be a mold condition, it can be resolved. There may be radon. And by the way, at this point, all those other inspections have to be done in this window. In the contract, there is a specific timeline, and again, it's different state by state on what the language is and how it's done, yet it's different state by state on time. And it's strictly a matter of negotiation, what the standard is. So for most states, depending on what's going on in the real estate market, it's 7 to 10 days. In a hot market, it can be shorter. And in some markets specifically, so you guys know, San Francisco, California, they do things the non-traditional way, the way I do. So I'll just let you guys, because some of you may have San Francisco folks that you're dealing with, the listing agent has the inspection done ahead of time, and they pay for it. And so at the offer stage, they're providing the inspection, the disclosures. They've now defined what the as-is sale is. And so there's a very short window for the buyer to look at anything. Okay? So once that's done and we're past this process, we are now just dealing with the lender, because our buyer, in usual cases, is going to have a lender, so we have to get the lender documents done. Once the lender documents are done, the inspections are done, everybody agrees and approves. The escrow company, the title company, or the attorney, depending on where in the country we're talking, gets all the paperwork done, gets all the money moved to all the parties. Everybody comes in, gets everything signed, and everything gets transferred, and escrow closes, and the house changes hands. So any questions on the people or the timeline for a real estate transit? I'll make sure we've got that cleared out. Any questions?
Russ, I'd like a couple of pieces of terminology.
Yes.
Because they're going to hear this from agents, from buyers. MLS stands for what?
Excellent. We have this great rule as teachers. Don't use acronyms, and yet we use them all the time. Multiple listing service. Every area of the country has different MLSs in theirs, and it's evolving and changing industry. That being said, the multiple listing service is where you potentially can go and pull the information, the true information, if you are a real estate agent or an appraiser. We didn't even talk about the appraiser in the process, or another professional who's got access. Some of your inspectors have access to the MLS. Real quick, the appraiser, if there's a lender, they're going to hire an appraiser to go out and verify the value of the house to make sure that the buyer isn't overpaying for it and that the bank is protected should they have to foreclose on the house.
Another cleanup issue outside of MLS, there are other names for it, so maybe like a BLC is still pretty popular, I think. Yeah,
What's a BLC?
it doesn't matter.
I've never heard of that one. Yes, ma'am.
Broker listing cooperative.
Broker listing cooperative.
It's
Learn something new every day. What part of the country? Okay.
Each local organization picks their own, and MLS was a trademark. So somebody else has another one. There's others. It doesn't matter. They call it PLC.
It's a great nugget, though. Thank you.
One thing I don't want anybody to be confused on is the word for renegotiation, which is the only thing you put in there for things like inspection contingency and whatnot. So maybe the other words for.
What other words would you like them to know?
Well, the words that their agents are using, so it's the inspection contingency period, it's the inspection contingency in the contract, that sort of thing.
So that's this window between in escrow and potential renegotiation where we come to new terms. There's a specific window of time there. It can be called the inspection contingency window, where we have to have all those inspections, all those decisions made, and have everything renegotiated as a buyer's agent that we want taken care of. If we don't get it done and we don't have a response by this date, then the original offer is considered the contract, period, paragraph. So literally, if I don't get from the inspector the report in time, and on this day, I don't either send over a change in terms that we agree on in my market before 5 p.m. on that day, or I don't send over a termination of the contract, my client is locked into whatever was in this negotiated offer that we had, step one. Does that help?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. So let's talk about the warranty first, and the importance of the warranty and what role it plays and where it happens. I'm literally dealing with one right now in this moment today. I made a call an hour ago on an issue related to a warranty. So, historically, right at this point at the closing table with the title company or attorney, whoever's handling the closing, is when the money will change hands for a buyer's warranty, which is usually your 1 year or 18-month warranty that you guys sell. So what we're doing is we're giving that buyer protection from this point into the future on that house for any unknown conditions to the buyer that were also not pre-existing that the seller knew about, okay? So there is that warranty period that you guys do that is so mission critical, because if an issue shows up on the house for one of my buyers, they move in and a month later the sewer line clogs, who do they call? Right? They're calling the agent. My job is not to manage those issues, yet my responsibility to my client is. And so I'm being pulled into something that, when you see in a moment, is not part of my normal day or my normal job description. And I've got to get that resolved. And when they do, I love having the position of, did you call your home warranty on something that I know is covered by that particular warranty company? And they can go that route and deal with it directly with the warranty. So what happens when a home warranty company says, I'm sorry, that's not covered? Who does the client call? And by the way, who probably was part of that warranty decision in the mind of the consumer? Me. So now, not only did they call me once saying I got an issue, now they're calling back and saying, the warranty you got me doesn't cover this issue, now who's going to pay for it? Right? And sometimes we're writing checks out of pocket to keep a client relationship. We're going to talk about where we get our business in a little bit, though this is a key component. In fact, let's go into it now. As a real estate agent, our business comes primarily, based on the statistics, from repeat and referral business. We go find new clients. It's part of the job description to bring new clients into our world. Yet as long as we are communicating with our clients, and there's very specific formulas on how to do it, if we're following that model, 58% of our business every year comes from repeat and referral. If that person's ticked off, I just lost them. They're not going to, not only are they not going to refer me to their friends, what are they actually going to say to their friends about me? Yeah, all of a sudden I become persona non grata. They're typing all this stuff in Facebook. Haven't had it happen, though. I've watched others. So that repeat and referral is key to us, and you play an important part in making sure that that relationship stays great, and your products do. Because there's a number of things you guys cover that aren't covered by the other companies. Unfortunately, the deal I'm dealing with right now, the buyer's agent asked for a specific product, not yours. That who's who he was married to. And so for my seller, I follow inspected, and I also put the warranty on in place. So I put their warranty on as a seller's warranty to carry through and turn into the buyer's warranty at escrow. It's been 10 days and they still haven't gone out and even looked at the problem. Their turnaround time's been horrible. How quickly are you getting to making sure you get your vendors out there to serve? Because I've spent 5-6 calls to the warranty company, 5-6 calls to the buyer's agent going, why isn't this issue fixed yet? I've got my client, thank goodness, going, hey, we understand. And yet, guys, a home warranty company is absolutely key. Key to my business, key to my client's situation. You guys make the difference, okay? The inspection, we know where it plays a role, and I've talked to you a little bit about their attitude and their energy. It also carries on to you guys that are scheduling the inspections. You represent the professionalism of that organization. And so when they first call and interact with you, are you excited to take the call? Are you having great conversations? Are you asking great questions and listening to the answers? And are you connecting with those people? Connection's key. And that represents that inspector and sets them up to have a great inspection with their agent partner and with that client. Starts with you guys. Okay? Once that's done, you guys have warranties that fill this void if the inspector's smart and has your guys' products in place. So then it goes like the sewer guard, one of the great ones, or their 90-day that they can call back when something happens in that space, and you guys have come in and put in a solution that we can stay on track and get this closing. When we don't get to close on time, we have a lot more paperwork and a lot more things to get done. Okay? So we've talked a little bit about the home buyer's journey. We've talked about the process. Anything mission critical for you at this point, Nathan?
Well, I was just thinking about that. One of the things that I think everybody in this room should understand is what agents look like at all levels, without being as politically correct as you can about it.
Let me go first through the day in the life of a productive agent and what they should be doing. And these are following highest and best models, and know that what I'm talking to you from is what the top agents in the #1 company on the planet is. So you guys know my home company, Keller Williams Real Estate, is the #1 company on the planet now in every single measurable in real estate. We have the most agents, we have the most volume per agent, we have the highest dollar income per agent at our company. We have over 180,000 agents worldwide. Our leader, Gary Keller, and by the way, it's still a solely owned company. It's not a corporate entity answering to Wall Street. He's a big guy on research and data. And so I'm sharing with you the research and data and what it looks like. So, great agent, great human being, gets up early, gets their morning ritual done of the things that feed their soul. Their prayer, their exercise, their meditation, their food, and they get in the office early. They practice and role play their scripts and dialogues and conversations, which I know based on the time I've spent with your people over the last 2 days, probably some of that's going to be going on in this environment, where you guys get to practice and role play. And if you're not practicing and role playing with each other to get better at your conversations, who are you practicing and role playing on? Right? Your clients, your customers. How's that working out? And so once that's done, 8 o'clock, they are doing what's called their lead generation. They're on the phone making calls to past clients, sphere of influence, other data files, talking to people about, first of all, how their life's going and connecting with them, and talking to them about real estate and what their needs might be, or who they know who wants to buy a home, sell a house, or invest in real estate that they could also help. Usually between 8 and 12. So if you're doing outbound lead generation to real estate agents, should you do it after 12 o'clock? Because that's when they're supposed to be doing that part. So you can write down, there's a 5-part job description of a top agent. #1 is lead generation. And by the way, it's with every industry. I teach this material to other industries as well. #2 is lead follow-up. Lead generation will make you money. Lead follow-up will make you wealthy. #3 is go on an appointment or go on appointments. #4 is negotiate contracts. And those 4 come directly out of the Millionaire Real Estate Agent that Gary Keller wrote like 12 years ago. And subsequent to that, he learned that practice and role play was #5. And that actually showed up in a book he wrote called Shift. That's the entire job description. Is handling warranty claims in that list? No. Responding to other people's complaints? No. So the more you guys can make that stuff go away, the better. So the afternoon of a real estate agent then is usually going on appointments, and if they don't have appointments, falling back to doing that lead generation, that lead creation. And get done 5, 6 o'clock at night and get back with your family. You might have some contracts to negotiate what's going on, and that's truly what a top agent should be doing. So the top agents, that's the model they're following. Are there a lot of agents not playing it that way? So there are different categories or types of agents that you guys get to interact with. And I'm going to look at it through your lens of who you're dealing with, especially from a sales perspective. So there's some that are out there looking absolutely for what all can you provide to my client? What are the features and benefits that you have as a warranty company or you have as an inspection company that can serve my clients the best and make sure my clients are protected? Number two, there's folks that are absolutely built on relationship. You get into relationship with them and they'll just keep referring you. In fact, the relationship's the most important part. They always want to know that they've got that person. And that kind of falls over a little bit as well to those that are really focused on service and accessibility. Now, can I reach you? One of the things I love about this call center for my inspector buddies is 24/7, there's a live human being that's answering their line. And you don't know how rare that is in the industry. And so that's great for me on accessibility. There's folks that are always following their leadership. It's usually the younger folks. They're usually in a company that's very structured and built. They're new in the industry. That's what I meant by younger, by the way. Do you know the average age of a real estate agent as of January? 56 years. 56 years old is the average age of the real estate population. And yet there's a lot of new talent coming in, young talent changing the game, and they'll follow their broker. They'll make sure they're following their broker's line, whatever they want. There are some that are only focused on the money. How cheap can I get it? Does that exist in every aspect of life? Yeah. And you're going to run into that where that's the issue. Now, here's what I want to educate you about. If that's really their issue, it isn't. They just don't know any better. In the absence of value, price becomes the determining factor. So are you able to educate them on the value of your warranty or the value of your inspector client? Can you really teach them quickly that this person has this value and here's why? And all of a sudden the cheap goes away. And then the last one is someone, and they're usually moving fast, got a lot to do, and so whatever's available to them, grab and go. And you'll find a fair amount of that in the real estate space as well. Usually early on, because they don't have the relationships, they haven't had one of those other buckets filled. You know, relationship's a key one, and the level of service you provide and how you take care of my client, those are the biggies for an ongoing, lasting agent. And what do you guys really want for clients for you? An agent who's staying in the business, right? They're going to wind up being easier for you. So how do agents choose providers? We've covered that through that list. We've talked about a day in the life in the agent. What else do you want? Because I love Q&A, so I make sure they get answers as well.
Some of the roles we didn't cover, names of players within the real estate hierarchy, broker, etc.
Which are different for every company, by the way. So I'm going to give you the Keller Williams world, since they're the big ones, and then we'll break it down from there. And again, it's different state by state. One of the fun things that you guys get to deal with. In most states, to transact a real estate transaction and be a representative of an individual, you must have a broker's license. It is a higher level of licensing. The broker is allowed to hire associates, real estate agents, who work under that broker's license and leadership, have their own license as well, and so are acting on behalf of the broker. And that again is the Keller Williams world and most of the brokerages out there. So in my office, for example, Emmy Cook is my broker of record for my office. And so she's on the paperwork and I'm on the paperwork as an agent working under her license with my license as well. Now, you're going to run into some other terms. The receptionist at a lot of locations, we call the director of first impressions. Most offices have one of those. The manager of the office. A lot of offices have managers that aren't the brokers. In some places, the broker's managing. In other places, there's a manager. We call them the team leader. So you know when you're reaching out to a Keller Williams office, you're asking for the team leader. That is the person that's running the office. They're, in essence, the CEO. In fact, heck, let's talk about the hierarchy. For most companies, including Keller Williams, headquarters, Keller Williams International, based in Austin, every Keller Williams office is an independently owned franchise. So just like McDonald's is an independently owned franchise and they're supposed to follow the models and systems, yet they can kind of get off. It's the same thing in the Keller Williams world. So that local office has an ownership team, an investor team. They hire their CEO, their team leader, who runs that office. They hire a broker, if they're not a broker, who's now the legal overseer of that office, and they hire a bunch of agents to go out and do transactions. Does that help?
So generally speaking, the broker doesn't really do a lot of real estate transactions if you're in a bigger office, fair to say.
Amen. Emmy Cook does none, because she has 400 agents like me, moving fast, getting things done. And are we all human? Mistakes happen. Maybe we get behind on our paperwork because that's not our strong suit. And she's got to manage all that for 400 people. So she doesn't have the time to do her own real estate. Great point.
Why do agents change offices? Some of us will talk to an agent today, they're with RE/MAX next week, they're with Keller Williams, and then they move over to a...
That second step never happens. I'm not going there with you.
All right.
Huebner's third rule of mountaineering, never look where you don't want to go. We don't want agents leaving our company. That being said, they're almost always changing offices because they're not making money where they are. And they think the grass is greener, they're going to get something different elsewhere. And yet, did I lay out the model for you of exactly what an agent's day should look like? And if they just follow the model, that doesn't happen. They get in the right environment where somebody's driving them on the model, they have more success. Yes, ma'am. Was that a hand or just a yes, ma'am?
So with that, we find that agents will typically change as of January 1 because that's when they start over with volume too, right?
Well, so she's saying that agents change January 1, and one of the perspectives is that when like volume changes, a lot of what occurs January 1 are MLS, association. There's a lot of dues and fees that an agent has to pay every year, and all are connected to their brokerage. So a lot of them make that change at that time period for the simple reason that they're redoing everything January 1 on their financial model as well and all the bills they have to pay. That being said, they make changes throughout the year. They're always open when their life isn't being served. If they're making money, they're continuing to grow and make more every year, they're in an environment that supports them, do they leave? And by the way, it's the same in every industry, every role, every relationship. If your needs and expectations are being met, you stay. And if not, you start looking for options. We always say that every agent has two real estate companies in mind, the one they're with and the one they'll go to if they're not happy at the one they're with. So, great question.
What's the training look like for a typical agent? I'm not referring to a Keller Williams model or somebody that has advanced training to deliver that value for a majority of the agents, the people that just do the real estate training module. What do those folks look like?
Depending on the state, there is a small amount to a large amount of training that you go into to learn to be able to sit for the test and take the state test. And it is about all the nuances of real estate and title labels and different kinds of real estate and state and federal laws related to real estate. And it has absolutely nothing to do with how to be successful in the industry. It's everything you need to comply with the law and nothing really to make it to where you can actually make money. A great story about Gary. Gary Keller, when he was 17, his plan was to be a rock musician. And that doesn't go well, and his parents say, well, we actually already signed you up and you've been accepted to Baylor University in Texas. He had no plans of going to college. They said, okay, I'll go to college. What do you want to be? I don't know. So had him go out and spend a day with a lawyer, an accountant, an attorney, a real estate agent, all these different industries, friends of theirs, take my son out for a day and go. And he really liked the real estate agent's life and lifestyle and flexibility and freedom. And Baylor was just starting a real estate degree that year. So he went to Baylor, got a real estate degree, and it was in the business department. So they taught negotiation skills that. So he goes on his first interview with a real estate company, and the guy says, well, how much do you want to make? Okay, we're negotiating salary. $24,000 a year. And the person goes, fantastic, I hope you make it. He's a what? Well, yeah, this is 100% commission. Every agent's living 100% commission. There's some models that are tweaking, so not every, most though. And he calls his parents and go, you realize I got a degree that doesn't pay anything. What the heck are we doing? So, yeah, when an agent's not closing transactions, they're not making money. They can't feed their family. The average agent in the nation right now, as of earlier this week's stats, 7.6 deals a year, with their brokerage taking approximately 20-30%. That's what they're living on. So when you have a transaction that the home inspector kills, the agent sees that as money out of their pocket. Yeah, when there's a transaction where after it closes, something happens and they're looking at that referral and repeat business going away, that's money out of their pocket, money out of their kids' college fund. I mean, that's the lives you guys get to affect every single day in this room. Every inspector gets to affect and every agent gets to affect. What else?
Questions?
Who's got a question for Coach Russ? Yes.
Okay, so just kind of reiterate, so your guys' model, Keller Williams, these don't necessarily have to have a real estate background, they just are an investor.
Just to be clear, the franchise model could be Keller Williams or anything.
I like talking about Keller Williams, so that puts a smile on my face.
I know, here's the problem. When we look at the whole thing, this is an interesting question. Is the franchisee of whatever it might be, Keller Williams as the example today because of Russ, and man, do we deal with a lot of Keller Williams agents around here? Yeah.
And we're going to do everything we can on that topic as well because you guys take great care of my clients. I have never had an issue with my inspector nor RWS warranty. So I'll draw it out. Yeah, oh, I will. So we have international. For every one of the big brokerages, they have headquarters. International HQ. We have all these different companies that have a franchise agreement with international to be able to use their name, use their logo, follow the models, learn from them, and run a Keller Williams operation or whatever other company you're talking about, okay? Inside this private entity, what questions do you have about it?
So I'm a franchise owner, say I'm just a money guy.
Excellent.
I want to buy a franchise, I have no idea about real estate, but I know how to hire good salespeople, so is that a model?
It is a model for us, not so much. Now, it doesn't mean that the franchise operator doesn't hire a team leader, CEO from outside the industry, who meets our model and our hiring process for how they're going to perform in that, and they perform like a rock star, and then they get an opportunity to start and buy their own franchise.
Would it be fair to say that a majority, if not 99% of franchise owners of all systems are licensed real estate agents or brokers at the very least?
Based on my experience these days in the Keller Williams world, no. Not in ours. We have a lot that have gone this model, gone into leadership in a franchise, showcased their skills as a leader, and been able to move up into an investor. And by the way, every office, just our model, so you have another term to use, operating principal. Of all the investors, there's one person that's the OP that oversees and directs the team leader. Operating principal who's an investor. And I have a ton of OPs and TLs that I'm dealing with right now who have no real estate experience and are amazing real estate leaders. Yeah, blessed to have them.
All right, who has another question?
I saw hands. Yes, ma'am. This is fun. This is where I love to play. Yes.
Does the timeline stay the same when the buyer is buying a home through an auction?
No, auction is a very fun one. So depends on the auction. If we're buying from the government on the courthouse steps, there's none of those protections, no inspections, no nothing. You give them money at the courthouse steps, you take the house as is, where is, with all defects, title defects, everything else, and roll the dice and see what you get. You don't even necessarily go in and see them. Yeah, that's buying on the courthouse steps. So I wouldn't recommend, if you don't have the background education experience to really vet that property, to ever get involved with an auction scenario. There was a piece of land in Austin somebody spent 20 grand on and found out nothing could be done with it. It was worth about 300 bucks. They bought it at the tax auction. Yeah, gone. And now they're like suing, attempting to unwind the transaction. That's not going to happen. So it could have been worse. Always look on the bright side. I like that. Now I have, because I was in the home inspection space, there are some auctions that are done that can still go through a traditional sales process. And so the house that I'm in right now in Austin 7 years ago, I had made the decision to move to Austin. And my daughter and I were sitting on the beach in Mexico with the laptop watching properties, and here this came, here's the American Express, sold. Bought a house in Austin sight unseen after having my wife's aunt go drive in with a video, shoot me information of the labels off all the material, which I ran through recall check, make sure there were no issues there, and check on some other things for me just so I could video see it because I had the inspection experience. And it's been a great house. I love my house, and my baby is a high school senior, and the wife and I are now talking about the whole downsizing thing. So yeah, pretty cool.
Brought it up.
Yes.
Congratulations on all of that. Ben, you'll be up right after me here, all right? I saw your hand. So a long time ago, when Russ owned a home inspection company in Northern California, he called me one day about an issue with the neighbor's house.
Absolutely, I'd love to share that.
Share it if you don't mind.
Absolutely, I still want to go back one step. Before recall check existed, and this was, a young, wet behind the ears, doe-eyed entrepreneur. I remember sitting on the front porch of my home inspection office. It was a 1930s beach house bungalow that we bought that was thrashed and redid. Talking about this incredible concept he had of a recall check and how we could leverage it. And it literally was during that initial ramp-up phase that I came home at 11 o'clock, was good friends with the neighbor, and they were in the process of pulling stuff out of the house to get it out of the smoke damage. See, they had an oven-microwave combo that had caught fire in the kitchen. Now, I came out of a construction background. I said, here, let me get my tools, help you out, because this thing's going to continue to make the house smell like a nasty electrical fire. We pulled the unit out, got it out in the driveway about midnight, so that was 3 a.m. here. And I called his happy tail and say, hey, can you run this? I think we may have had a recalled unit. And sure enough, that particular unit was on recall. They had no idea. They were the second owners of that house, and recall check didn't exist when they bought the house. And so it wound up being a $30,000, $40,000 kitchen repair that if their inspector and recall check had existed, they never would have had to face. It would have been just resolved and handled. And so an amazing gift that has been brought to the industry that you guys have, and I was a bit of an advocate from that point on for recall check, to say the least. There were a bazillion Bosch dishwashers in my neighborhood that were all recalled and part of that whole fire hazard. And you guys provide them that protection. How cool is that? So yes, sir.
Can you define sort of what an as-is sale and what that would look like?
Awesome.
That question always comes up in 90 days.
So, an as-is sale per the contract is as is where is based on the knowledge that has been disclosed by the seller to the buyer. So this is our offer and agreement of an as-is sale. And the seller has not defined what an as-is sale is because they don't know everything about the house. And so although the contract says as is, we have our window of time for inspections. And all of a sudden after, let's say that's a 10-day window, always on the 10th day, real estate agents do everything last minute. Here we are having another conversation. So let me just take a step forward with something that I'm passionate about. We do an offer here as is, $400,000 sale. There's a $200,000 loan already against the house. So I, as a seller, get a $400,000 agreement. I'll use simple terms. I have a $200,000 loan. I mentally spend my $200,000. I'm going to go buy this house. I have a $200,000 down payment. This is going to be great. I know where I'm going. I know how I'm going to pay for it. And then 10 days later, the buyer comes with this laundry list of things their inspector found. And if it's a $100 issue to fix, a seller's still scared to death and says it's a $500 issue. So now I've got a $20,000 negotiation is what I'm being presented by the buyers. And I, as a seller, going, I can't qualify for that house now. Again, it's going on and has been for 30 years in San Francisco, and it should be nationwide, and we should be promoting it. When I take a listing, I have the inspection done right then and there. If we find something significant, I can get it fixed through my inexpensive contractors and get it done right. And then most of your inspection companies will come back out, re-inspect, and clear that from the inspection. 2% maximum of the country's doing this.
But let me clarify what Ben's saying, okay? Because you're using a phrase, and this is really important to get these phrases down. An as-is contract isn't the phraseology that's used everywhere. What I think Ben is referring to is the typical and customary where you have the agent-to-agent comments or even a field in some of the BLCs and MLSs where it says it's being sold in as-is condition. In other words, there is no inspection contingency that will be accepted.
Okay, so just so I verify first, is the Indiana state contract, Patty, does it say as is in the contract?
It says, it can say as is with the option to have it inspected. So you can still say, I'm going to buy it as is, but we have the inspection. If you find something in the inspection, you can walk away from it.
Excellent, which is the same nationally. That's pretty much what I run everywhere. And we have our choice here to walk away or attempt to renegotiate. So there are some that say, we're selling it as is, and you come through and do your inspections, and you get to evaluate if the numbers make sense. Most of those that are in the MLS or BLC as an as-is sale are being sold at a significant discount. But there's a reason they're saying that. It's a thrasher.
What are the situations where someone might do that BLC or MLS as is status?
Excellent. Some of the reasons. I started a remodel and I ran out of money. That's how I bought 2 houses so far. Okay, they didn't have the money to finish. The work they were doing was horrible. It needed to be redone. They hired the wrong contractors. Mom and Dad have lived in the house for 55 years and have finally passed on, and nothing's been done in 55 years. Original everything. Okay, another reason.
Could be bank owned, et cetera.
Yeah, well, all bank owns automatically are. Anything that is a bank-owned sale where the bank is foreclosed, taken it over and put it in the MLS is automatically an as-is, where-is. You can have your inspections, and that's just a walk-away clause, period. Yep, great point.
Any other questions from the crowd before my last one?
Yes, ma'am. One of my favorites.
I would love for you to define the difference between a customer and a client.
Difference between a customer and a client from which perspective, the agent or the inspector?
From the inspector, that's either one.
So from the agent, I'll start there. Every one of my customers is a client, period. It is just an absolute higher fiduciary duty to them, and they are a part of my life permanently. And would you rather be referred to as a customer or a client? Yeah, it feels more significant, more serious. In the inspection space, it is different. So We have the client who is the buyer usually, and we have the customer who's the agent. Because they're the ones controlling the delivery of the referrals. 99% of inspections come from referrals?
Over 90, not 99.
All right, I don't know what the numbers are these days, and yet I know in my world it's always a referral, period. You are going to use TLC Inspection. They are on RWS. They provide all the guarantees, period. And if you choose something different, that's your choice. This is the only one I'm going to recommend. They're the best of the best that I have found and have the best protection for my clients. Now, that being said, back to the agent space. In our world at Keller Williams, we have the customers as well of the agent on the other side of the transaction and the client on the other side of the transaction. We have a very specific culture in our company. One of our tenets is win-win or no deal. And so we're always looking for how to facilitate where everybody's having a great experience in the transaction. So great example transaction I'm doing with Clay, one of my buddies, Keller Williams, on the house next door to mine that I have listed. We had a 21-day negotiation process to be able to cobble that together. And both of us were able to keep our clients in the conversation and work slowly to where everybody was excited about where they were at on that process. And then they asked for a couple of things to be repaired. And again, win-win or no deal. There's things in there that I'm personally taking care of to help them out because I'm handy and I can go over there and just take care of it. Always looking. So making sure everybody in the transaction, our client is still our seller in this situation. And yet, the buyers and the other agent are important customers to me as an agent. Not always the case. What else?
Any other questions before my last?
Yes, sir.
This one, it could go very deep, but I prefer just to keep it kind of high level.
Okay.
So, in fact, I just had this happen when one of my team members called. The broker owner was walking by the receptionist's desk, perhaps the phone, because the receptionist was in the restroom or something.
Awesome.
So she gets the broker owner on the phone. What general, we talked about before, the future benefits of the relationship, cheap guy and then the super busy guy. I get a broker owner on the phone who I'll probably never ever get on the phone again. What generalization can I make that if I'm talking to the broker owner, am I talking future benefits for the 2 minutes that I have? Am I talking relationship? Am I talking about cheap? Or are we talking about the gratitude?
None of the above. Here's my high-level absolute recommendation for anyone dealing with the outside world that intends to be successful, have powerful relationships, powerful conversations. The person who talks the most dominates the conversation. The person who asks the most questions controls the conversation. Start focusing on having question-driven conversations where you're inquiring about them, where you're inquiring about their needs. One of our bold laws, come from contribution. If you're asking questions, you're going to find a way to come from contribution and connect with them. You're going to find out. That guy right there on the phone, hey, I appreciate you picking up the phone. Did he sound rushed?
Actually, no.
Excellent. You probably, if you're, number 2, be present. If you're truly present and listening, you're going to pick up those cues. And so he didn't feel rushed. Okay, well, we know he's not at least that driver go, go, go guy. And we can get a little more and just start asking questions. When we were working on scripting today for the inspector call center, we definitely changed some of that early on to be a little more question-driven, learn a little more about their needs and their situation so you can absolutely serve them. How do you, that's why I love this question and answer here. How do I know I've served you guys in this room if I'm not asking you the question, what's important to you, and you're asking me questions back that I can answer? Same thing.
Last chance for questions before the finale question.
Yeah, because we're like 5 minutes away.
All right. So we do a lot of communications with agents. There are people calling in. We have our sales reps walking to their office. Paul accidentally talking to a broker. You know, things like that happen. The wording that we use, the scripting that we use, we're trying to build in words. What are the top 5, 10 words, whatever you got, just the word that real estate agents, just rings in their ear?
So before we hit that, I want to hit something more important. And I'm going to use Tony Robbins' data. This comes from Tony. 55%, 38%, 7%. 55% of your communication success or failure is body language. So if you're talking to somebody face to face, how you hold yourself, how you mirror and match them, how you connect with them physically, number one. 38% is tonality, rate of speech, volume, everything related to how you're saying it. 7% is the words we use. Now the words are still vitally important, okay? So on that, are you looking for, I really like that word, or are you looking for, that's going to kill my deal word?
I'm looking for the I really like those words, and they are typical and common amongst agents. They're speaking agent language.
You know, what's interesting about that to me is it's just so unique from region to region and person to person. Whereas the naughty words are pretty easy.
Okay, so the ones we need to stay away from.
Don't bring me a problem, don't use the P word. Okay? Bring me the answer, bring me a challenge with an answer. Just don't, nothing. You walk through a house as an inspector and go, well, this is a problem. This is a problem. Oh, and here, look at this problem I found. And no, this is a problem. And the inspector immediately looks at me as the agent and goes, oh, you found me a house full of problems, didn't you? Okay, so that's a huge naughty word. Other naughty words are good words. Why? Stay away from the question why. It's a very disempowering question. I mean, why did you ask that? Right? Got some other favorite, naughty words I'm strong at. This is like my wheelhouse. Ladies, I'm going to ask you, what's wrong? And your response? Nothing. Right? And you're immediately triggered. So problem, challenge. What's wrong? One of my favorites. And this is one of my great ones right from the bold content we still play with today. What's troubling you? That's really about them. Who in here would really like to plus your personal relationship with your primary person? Raise your hands high. You'd like to improve it. Share this change with them. That you're getting rid of what's wrong and you're going to put in place what's troubling you. And when you're being a jerk, your lovely bride Marcy will look at you and smile and go, what's troubling you? And that's exactly what I do now. I laugh. And we have a real conversation about what's going on in my life and her life. Okay? So for you with clients and other people, though, just stay away from those toxic words. Man, there's so many good ones to choose from on that slide deck.
Are there maybe some words that you would, as an agent, would increase your blood pressure in written format? We only do, a couple million emails a month here. So unfortunately for the Tony Robbins side, 80% of our people don't really talk a lot.
No, so think about that with email. We've lost body language. We've lost tonality and rate of spurts. One of my favorites. You text somebody or email somebody. What tone do they read into it? Yeah, whatever they want. What tone does their attorney read into it? Whichever one's going to put the most money in their pocket. And so definitely on that, I mean, there absolutely can be, and I'm happy, like we've talked about, to do some review of those and start pulling out maybe. Every single person has a habitual vocabulary of 200 to 300 words on average. They use the same ones every day. And there may be some habitual language that's coming out. Again, I know on the scripting, we did some rewriting and pull it out. Is there anything in particular you're thinking of? Because you usually do not ask a question if there's not something on your mind.
Well, I think that agents like to hear words, certain types of words. I don't know. I didn't know where you were.
Such a, okay, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Always good for a naughty word.
Okay, well, no, I've got, the naughty part would be, don't call me hun, don't call me darling, don't do any of that. On the good side, one of the things that we do, both on the phones and in writing, is we ask the agent, what else can I do to help you in your transaction?
Awesome.
The minute I see the word transaction, I feel like
Now let me give you another one since she said that. Mirror and matching, and we talked about it today. Give people back their words. If Mo Anderson calls me and goes, "Hi, darling," how do you think I'm going to respond to her?
Sugar pie.
Howdy, darling. I'm going to give her back her language. Since you guys are calling all over the country and responding to calls all over the country, you've really got to pay attention to the language they're using in that region. Somebody picks up the phone, they call in, and they say, "Howdy." How are you going to address them? Howdy. Give them their way of speaking. Very, very, very important. More to mirror and match the words than to have your own list. Yes?
I'll give you a very specific one. and
Awesome.
We're wrapping this, sorry.
I can still answer once the video's off. Happy to.
So for instance, we're going to talk to an agent either via written communications, we're talking to them over the phone. They haven't given us anything to mirror back.
Yep.
How do we, and this is the challenge, how do we refer to the end user, the client, the homeowner, the policyholder? You know, there's all these different words that we have for them internally. What makes you feel the best when we refer to that person that you care about so much, that client? How should we?
That's a great word right there because they are your clients as well.
So this is where I was going. To
Yep.
say your client.
Yeah,
Give the agent ownership. Does that have a benefit?
absolutely. I mean, you're referring to my person as my client? Awesome. And refer to them the same. You as a client are also vitally important to us. Allow them to be your client as your referral partner.
That's a great place.
Great
to
word.
wrap this up.
All right.
So Russ, thank you very much.
You're welcome, man. I appreciate being a part of it. Yep.